Good morning and welcome to the Tap to Tag webinar. These are for students that are applying for Fall 2022 UC TAP. So before you begin your TAP application, you want to make sure that you have a copy of all your transcripts from all colleges attended for reference. Do not report from memory. It's so important that you have those transcripts in front of you and that you report it exactly what's seen on your transcript. Make sure to review your UC requirements, and you'll want to choose one university to submit a tag. That does not mean that you can only apply to one UC. That just means that you just have to apply for one tag, and then once you submit your UC application at the end of November, you can apply to multiple UCs. The Tap to Tag application. So the first step is to create your transfer admission planner, which is your TAP. And this is where you create an inventory of your coursework and you self-report your academic history. This can be done at any time. Depending if this is your last year at Cabrillo or you're just starting, you can begin your TAP at any time. And basically what it is a copy of your transcript. So it's you self-reporting your classes to the UC. So in order to convert that TAP to tag, once you fill out your TAP, one of the last steps is to submit it as a tag application. Another great benefit about the TAP tool is that it is our opportunity to also send you messages if we have representatives on campus. Counselors can actually see it on the back end. So once you do your TAP tool, any of us can go in there and see, make sure you did it correctly, or if you have any questions. If you meet with any of our representatives, they can also look at it. So it's always great to start that as soon as possible. And the best benefit about that is you are going to then upload that into your UC application once you apply in October and November, so you don't have to duplicate that work that you have already done. So eligibility requirements. So in order to be eligible for TAG, you have to have completed at least 30 UC transferable units by the end of summer 2021. So right by now, you should have at least 30 UC transferable units. And then you have to complete at least 60 UC transferable units by the end of spring 2022. So that sometimes is kind of confusing for students. They're like, I'm not at 60 yet, but that's okay, because in the TAP tool, you're going to put the classes that you're in progress with for fall and what classes you have planned for spring 2022. GPA requirements must be met during the time of application and maintained for fall and spring semesters. So typically TAG has a little bit higher GPA than they request on the screening criteria for the UC app. So it is a little bit more competitive. So just because you don't qualify for TAG does not mean that you will not be eligible for UC applications. So some schools have selective majors which require progress in a student's major courses. This also includes GPA requirements and major specific courses. So schools, especially like Davis, if you were an engineering major, you need to have at least a 3.5 in just the calc and physics and engineering courses. So it's really important, to meet these general requirements, but also look at the school's specific requirements that you must meet. Certain universities require specific progress and completion in English and math. So a lot of them want that ready completed with your English 1A or your transfer level math, or at least in progress for fall for 2022 or 2021, sorry. And additional details are found on the campus website. So here's kind of a screenshot of the different GPAs. So like I said, UC Davis is about a 3.2 to 3.5, depending on the major. UC Irvine's a 3.4. UC Merced, 2.8 to 3.0, depending on the major. UC Riverside, 2.7 to 3.0, depending on the major. UCSB, 3.4 by the end of fall 2021. And same with UCSC, 3.0 by the end of fall of 2021. And all of these are going to be due by September 30th. So to begin, you'll want to go to the UC TAP tool, create an account, make sure that you're creating a student account. I think this is sometimes where students get a little confused because that's also where counselors and staff can log in. So make sure you're creating a UC TAP account. not a UC application, a UC tap. Create your login and your email that you typically use, so that, because this is where all your messages will be going. So it's really, really important to check your spam, your junk folder, because this is where a lot of the communication will be going from both Cabrillo and also the UC reps. So to creating an account, pretty standard information: first, last name, preferred name, email, date of birth. You're going to create a login, create a password. So important to remember this because, like I said, later on in the application cycle, you'll be uploading this tap tool into your UC application. They're two different websites, so just make a note of that. So at the beginning of the UC tap, you're going to have About Me section. You're going to put in your academic history. You're going to let them know what schools that you plan to apply to as well. This is also an outreach tool for the UCs. So make sure that you're putting in all the schools that you're interested in, all the majors you're interested in. And once again, this is kind of like a message portal to you as well. So make sure you check your messages. And then just make sure everything's accurate. So in your About Me section, you're going to have your personal information, demographic information. If you were part of any special programs such as EOP&S, STEM, MESA, TAP, which is everyone should be clicking that one because you're all using the TAP tool. Puente. Demographic information includes primary language, residency, if you've been in foster care, parents' level of education, household income, gender, race, and ethnicity. So this is just for their data points. So obviously be as honest and accurate as possible. Tag is free, so the income level doesn't, obviously you want to be very transparent and honest, but this is not going to determine like the fee waiver or anything, because TAP is free, and then the UC application will cost $70. Really important on this one, when you're doing your contact information and your date of birth, make sure you use your correct student ID number at Cabrillo. That's a way for us, because what counselors are going to be doing for most of the institutions, we're going to be going through this on the back end and reviewing them. Obviously, we encourage you to go to our help sessions and go to, if you have time, make an appointment, but we're also going to be doing some work at the back end to make sure that you're doing this accurate. So the only way that we can make sure to track you is if you use your correct student ID number, so that we can pull up your transcripts and any other transcripts that you have prior to attending Cabrillo. On the My Academic History, you want to make sure to include all the high school, or your high school that you attended, your graduation date, all colleges, the type of school, whether it's quarter or semester, if you're getting an associate's degree or an associate degree for transfer, your expected graduation date. And then you want to enter all courses. So this also includes non-transferable courses. So if you took Math 152 or English 100, or if you're in any of the co-recs like Math 103 or Math 102, those aren't going to pre-populate. We'll go into that in a little bit more, but you have to put everything on your transcript. I know sometimes students have been here for a while and they have, pages of transcripts, and like, do I have to? And I'm like, yes, it should look exactly like your transcript does. And then you also want to make sure to include any IB or AP exams, because that can also count for credit. But like I said, we have to be as transparent and honest as possible. So you want to list every single thing. Now, if you didn't get a 3, or if you got a 1 or 2 on your AP exams, you don't need to report them. It's only if you got a 3, 4, or 5. So list all schools attended, including high schools, and any colleges or universities that you've attended. So you don't just want to put your most recent, you want to put every single school that you've been to. And then if you're a US citizen or permanent resident. And then really important on the UC application and the UC TAP, if there was any gap of time that you took a semester off or took a year off, they're going to want to know what you did during that time. So make sure that you are honest and put as much information down as possible. So on the academic history, most courses, all UC transferable courses will auto-populate. So for instance, if you put in English, if you put in ENGL, a drop-down menu will come down. You'll put English 1A, the title will populate, the unit should populate, and then you put the grade. It's so important not to type these in yourselves, because this is going to make sure that you have the requirements. So if it pre-populates, use that one. But like I said, if you went to an out-of-state university or you took a non-transferable class at another institution or at Cabrillo, you're going to want to add that on your own. And then you want to put every single grade. So if you got a W, a D, an F, this past year and a half, an EW because of COVID, you have to list everything. And then write a short explanation, so no more than a sentence or two if there was a gap. So a lot of students take classes while they're in high school, and then it looks like they didn't take classes for 2 to 3 years. Not necessarily, they were in high school. So you could just put, I was in high school. I left school to work. My mom was sick. I left school to help out with my family. Just a brief explanation to why you were not in school during that time. So when you're adding your coursework, you want to add the term, select the school. So some of you may probably have gone to multiple universities. Make sure you're clicking the appropriate school, because that's what's going to list all of the classes that are with that school. If it's a California community college, not if it's an out-of-state or private, or even four-year. You want to put the first 3 or 4 letters of the department, and then it'll come up to a list. For instance, so psych here, and then I would, if I was in psych 12, I would click the psych 12 and it would auto-populate all of that information for me. And then I would put the grade, or if it was in progress, I would put in progress or planned. So if you went to an institution prior to Cabrillo that was a 4-year or an out of state, you want to go down here where it says my course is not listed, add it now. And then that will require you to actually manually type in the course, the name of the course, and the units. So important, because I see it every single time. Double check this list to make sure it's not listed. You can always come to our help sessions or virtual drop-in and ask questions. But when it pre-populates right here, that's the most important thing, because then that's going to give you an accurate GPA for your UC transferable unit. So if it's UC transferable, we want to make sure we're using this list. Do not add it manually, only if it's non-transferable or it's coming from an out-of-state or 4-year. So make sure you add your AP scores, 3, 4, or 5. You'll see a summary. This is really important, especially if you did AP English or AP language, lit or language, because that's going to count a lot of you for your first UCE. So we want to make sure we are putting those all in there, and they count for units. So that can probably help you get to that 60 or especially that 30 by the end of summer. So make sure you list all of that information. If you sent them to Cabrillo and we have them on file, and you're not sure what score or what test you took, you can reach out to us and we can give you that unofficial copy if you've sent it to us. If you haven't sent to us, you need to send it to us, and then also log into College Board. That's where you can check your score. So you'll want to select the UC campuses that you're interested in applying to, and you can only select one for tag. Really important, this is just step 1 for the UC application. Just because you submitted your tag by the deadline does not mean that you are done. You still have to complete your UC application by the end of November. So 2-part series, tag is the first part, which is a big part, especially since you're going to start listing all your classes. And then when you apply to your UC application, you're going to upload your tag and add your personal insight questions. So don't forget to do that step, because that's your tag basically is invalid if you do not do your UC application as well. So then you want to change your major. For those of you that are tagging, this is really important. So if you choose, say, sociology for UC Davis for your tag, and then the next month and a half, you're like, you know what? I also meet like the major criteria for psychology. I think I'm going to switch my major. If it's not the same major as you submitted your tag will be invalid. So your tag will basically be denied, and it'll just default for your regular application. So those two have to match. It's okay if that happens. It's not the end of the world, but do know that, once you submit your tag major, it should say the same for your UC application if you want to use the benefits for tag. Make sure you're checking your messages. Cabrillo Academic Counseling, UC admission representatives will all be messaging you through this. So make sure you're checking it when we have workshops or UC reps on campus. This is also how we'll do your messaging. If you're meeting with any of our reps, they'll ask to look through your UC tab because that's how they can see your coursework. So this is such a valuable tool. So next steps. So obviously you want to start on your TAP application, start working on it, and then you can go to a tab to TAC application help. That's where we'll have a few counselors and our transfer staff in a Zoom. And then we'll go in breakout rooms and then you can ask your questions individually. We can also check your tag and check your transcripts to make sure that's all valid. And we have several of those before the deadline of September 30th. You can also make an appointment if you're working with a specific counselor in a special program like STEM or EOPS. We have lots of resources to help you guys look at these. Make sure you complete all remaining coursework that listed on your tag and you're meeting the requirements by spring of 2022. Apply online. Can't reiterate that enough. The application is now open. The application opens on August 1st and it closes on November 30th, but we ask you to submit it closer to mid to end November, just because that's when you're going to be registering for your classes so that we can really know what you're going to be taking in spring and it is valid on your application. And I said the last one already. So that is it. We are here to help you. If you have any questions, you can go to transfercenter@cabrillo.edu, send us an email. We post a lot of things on our Instagram, and then our transfer events calendar is also on our website where you can register for those application help sessions. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and answer any questions for you guys.
So I have a question.